You want an intro? Well, you know your intro is this time? A video. So if you're listening, stop what you're doing, and by the end of this live email, go and find the YouTube link for the anime video that Joe and I created. It is by far the coolest intro that will ever be featured in these humble live emails. Alright, let's see. After finishing the last long live email, I kind of just went to bed. The next day, I edited the aforementioned live email and then drove over to Katie's house because she was back in town for the holidays from Texas, and we played some board games. We didn't play this at all, but her parents really did not get it. And because it's kind of like a stupid game, that's what makes it fun and funny, they were just like, it's stupid, and didn't get the funny aspect. Thus, we moved on to this Disney villain game, the name of which I can't remember, and I sucked at in an unparalleled fashion. I actually lost so hard. So, yeah. After that, we bid Katie farewell, and I tried to race off the light with Noah as we drove home, but we didn't hit a red light the whole stinking way. I have never been so disappointed to not hit a red light. Anyway, once I got home, I participated in a pity/shunning dinner, and I don't know how to describe it. So, as I think I told you guys a while back, Braden got in a serious motorcycle accident, but he got out of it pretty well unscathed. So for some reason, my parents organized a dinner with Braden, his family, as well as the people that were right behind him when he got hit, because apparently they were concerned. So yeah, basically it was all the people being like, "You're really stupid," both for the accident being your fault and for not believing it was a miracle that you're all right. And I mean, they're not wrong. It was just super awkward to sit through the whole conversation. Plus, the rest of the Bassett kids, which we haven't seen in a while, were really awkward, and small talk questions were just kind of happening. So yeah, the dinner was definitely a bit painful, and Braden and I ended up leaving early. His excuse was because he got a new dog and wanted to check on him. And my reason, well, was because Braden. Okay, it wasn't actually a good reason. I just really wanted to get out of there. So yeah, Braden and I left for his house, wherein I met his dog, which is a solid 5 out of 10 dog. Maybe 4 out of 10. He'll eat your food and apparently poops in the basement, which is John's room. Which apparently might be a desirable trait. I didn't consider that before. Maybe I need to bump this dog's rating. Anyway, we ate a bit of food, played some Smash Bros, and then actually watched some anime. We made a trade wherein if I showed him anime, he would show me Rick and Morty, and I showed him my favorite episode of anime. Hence, I, albeit tentatively, accepted the explicit condition, the deal on the explicit condition that the Rick and Morty must be the cleanest he knows, because that show is not renowned for its child friendliness. So yeah, I watched that, and it was pretty meh at best. I then got to show him 2 episodes of Fate Unlimited Blade Works, which he liked quite a bit. I think he said he gave it a 9 afterward. So yeah, I spread the anime virus to yet another person and brought about something in the world. It might be a stretch to say I brought about good in the world, so we'll just go with something. So yeah, after that, Braden dropped me back off his house, off at my house, and it turned out that even though it was like 11 or maybe 12, the Basses were still there. So yeah, I got back and joined in on a game of We Didn't Play Test at all, which I was very boisterous, and everyone had a good time, because it was late enough in the night for everyone to, have become decently reacquainted. And also, that day I received my new headphones and phone in the mail. I still haven't switched over my phone, by the way. I'm making a wooden case, which is way harder than it sounds. I'm still waiting on that makerspace to, film me if I can join or not. So, the day came and went, and another day began. During said other day, I, as a result of the aforementioned boisterousness, promptly lost my voice, which Caleb and Joe found very funny, and I think Ben has an incriminating video of somewhere in the deep recesses of his copious amounts of blackmail material of me voiceless. But yeah, voicelessly, I summoned Caleb and vicariously Joe to my house, and the 3 of us, plus Ben, journeyed to Lowe's to gather wood needed to construct my phone case, which was when Caleb dared to assert that he could build a better case than I, and thus our phone case competition was born. During the ride, Joe read through the list of anime to see who had watched the most, and every time, read through a list of anime. Oh yeah, and every time he won by a landslide. Once we got home, we decided to test our anime knowledge in a different manner, through Kahoot, and proceeded to figure out which universes Genku destroyed in which order. Immensely fascinating, for sure. So yeah, that could have gone better. But after that, we played some Daipyo together, and Joe, the only one who hadn't played before, somehow managed the highest score, which still perplexes me. After that, Joe and Caleb left, and I played a game with me and Ben, and we used to play a lot, named Zoms.io. And eventually Ben joined me and we beat some people up because we're pretty darn good at that game. The next day I got quite a bit of my voice back. I went to work, had school, and then had Animen, Brawl Boys, Minecraft, whatever it's called these days. At said place of many names, I played Halo, Brawlhalla, and then some anime guessing before calling it a night and heading home. The following day I had work, then school. I wasted some time before going over to Ratio, wherein Alan and I made some progress. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, we also talked about cryptocurrency, namely stable coins, and I think that I'm going to be getting into a 20% interest deal, which sounds better than 1% interest, but that's just my personal opinion. The following day I went to work, did a lab of the chemical variety, played frisbee golf with half the squad minus Karina and Noah. I should make up a name for the Caleb-Joe pair. There we are. They are now christened the pair. I know, creativity is just bursting from me. So yeah, the pair, in addition to the 2 Bens, all met up, though I was a bit late as I came directly from the lab, and played frisbee golf, which I think I 3-way tied with Ben and Caleb. It was definitely a more conflict-filled episode of frisbee golf, but it was still good. After we completed the course, I had a contest of who could throw the frisbee across the football field and through the goalposts in the least number of throws. And then, after a few rounds of that, we had a jumping competition in which Caleb and I both got schooled. We both suck at jumping. But Ben and Joe both did quite well. We then went to Joe's house, wherein I got to eat Joe's personally legendary mac and cheese. I don't know why, but I alone really like how Joe makes mac and cheese. So yeah, we did that, and we played a lengthy round of Starvio, which was really good. Definitely enjoyed that. And then, once we were killed by a player killer, which is always how those games end, we played a bit of Diapio before rounding out the night. The next day I slept and did not donate plasma, despite the fact it was my plasma donation day. I then went to physics class where we did very boring things as well as doing homework until Noah showed up. See, Noah and I don't get to hang out all that often, so he and I planned to drive and talk, and it was pretty good. I got to see where he used to live, and I got to hear his bit of his story. Though, of course, leaving out the most important life-shaping parts, as the members of the squad currently have a ban against important history that will be so it can't be shared prior to the trip. But yeah, it was good. The only regret I have is I did not bring water, because my throat felt actually trash. The following day I had work, and then I left for my chem class, wherein I, being the brains of the operation, concocted a way for us to find the number of moles of a particular substance in the mixture. See, our final lab practical had us make our own procedure to find out some mixture of like 70 or more nomenclaturous present. Yeah, I have no idea what like the actual name of the substance was. I'm just going to call it nomenclaturous. There's a reason I got a 54 on my nomenclature test. Speaking of which, bad grades that is, I ended up with C in that class. I did the math and I could have bumped up to a B if I wanted to, but that would have required doing a lot of homework that I'd procrastinated throughout the year, and so it would have 100% consumed my life for the next like week. And I figured that, once I get to my like 4th university year and transfer credits, anything you get is just a C or above counts as a T on your transcript, aka it doesn't actually impact your GPA, which is both super sucky to find out because that means I've been working for all these A's for no reason, but also reassuring because it meant I had no reason to bust my butt and actually bump my chem grade to a B. So yeah, good and bad news simultaneously. I also ended up pulling up off an A in my Calculus 2 base physics class, but purely because my teacher curves everyone's grade at the end. I definitely deserved to be. Anyway, I plotted with my fellow chem partners and made a lab plan before going home and then doing homework and then playing Smash Bros. And stargazing until late at night. The following day, I was like, it's getting colder, so I should change my oil before it snows, which in of itself is good reasoning. However, what I always fail to neglect is that every time I touch my car, it breaks. So here I am, working on changing my oil, and I'm doing pretty well, just your standard oil change, right? I mean, sure, the screw that plugs my oil pan is stripping and my power steering fluid is critically low, but like I said, standard. So I finished the work right, and I start up the car and pop my head under the hood just to make sure nothing's exploding. My power steering fluid just starts spraying everywhere. And I'm like, what the heck? Because the stuff I was working on is on the other side of the car. So I turn off my car, only to find the oil filter is like gushing out oil. Basically, all the oil I put in now is on the ground. Not to mention, now that my power steering fluid had gone over my certainty belts, thus those need to be cleaned or just straight replaced. So yeah, that was a lovely experience. Thus I decided to just replace the certainty belts, because I needed it anyway, and I got cleaned up, and then I walked inside to nurse my wounds. I then called over Joe to play some Starvio with me, and he obliged me. We then watched some of My Hero, I think, and we ended up talking until 3 in the morning, which was meh, honestly. The topic of conversation was my favorite, and I kind of just told Joe the arguments I already knew, and he was kind of like, but do what I'm telling you to do anyway, and that's how that went. The following day, I went to work, as is standard practice, and then I went to chem and did my chem panel, which was not standard. So, like in physics, I'm pretty much the brains and leader of my chem group. Thus, as one might suppose, my participation was integral. Well, said during said participation, I took off my face shield because, frankly, I couldn't see. However, that was very quickly found to be a mistake, as I then took the cork out of a pressurized flask full of acid, hydrochloric acid, and a bit of it, at 1 molar concentration, by the way, flew into my eye. So in case you didn't know, acid in your eye is not preferred, unless you were in a superhero movie. And thus, I rushed over to the eye goggle things and activated them. Now, at this point, of course, the whole class is staring at me as the almost foamy water bursts through 2 eye-shaped sockets and then spills out on the floor. Honestly, I should have rinsed my eyes for a lot longer, but I was kind of the major subject of attention, so I stopped after like 30 seconds or something because I knew everyone was staring at me. It was definitely a stressful experience, and despite me rinsing out my eye for like way less time than I should have, I could see just fine. Probably. I've seen some strange things since then, and I've been tempted to blame it on the acid. I guess wrong type of acid. So yeah, that happened. And then my lab members were nice enough to help me clean everything up and remove the traces of my experimentation with acid from the room before my professor came back. So the funny thing about all this is my chem professor had left the room when all this went down, because he was getting surgery the next few days and this place called him and he had to take it. And yeah, when he got back, he was like, anyone die when I was gone? And one of my classmates was like, yeah, we had a guy get acid in his eye, someone break a glass, and what else could go wrong? or something like that. And the professor was like, totally thought it was a joke and just moved on. Which, even though I realized in hindsight it was kind of stupid because my eyes are a pretty darn important part of me, I was super grateful for. Because if he had known I got an acid in my eye, then he would have sent me to the ER. And I would have probably had to, do a makeup lab final, which I really didn't want to do. So after that, I just kind of gave my classmates a silent, like, don't tell him. Look. And amazingly, he never found out I got acid in my eye. I didn't have to retake the final exam. So for all of you that are just sitting there thinking, Alex, you are such an idiot. I mean, you're not entirely wrong. But look, it was only a little bit of acid. And I did rinse it. Let's not talk about for how long. And it wasn't hurting. And I looked it up, and HCl definitely burns when it eats away at your eye. So I had a decent, if not spectacular, reason to think my eyes would live to see another day. Get it? See? What's wrong with me? John must be rubbing off. So yeah, I completed my lab. My teacher never found out. And get this, I got a literal 100%. That's right. The lab where I spilled acid in my eye accidentally was the only one I got 100% on. It's great. After that, I went home and did like 2 hours of internet research to make sure I wasn't like having acid burn through my eye and I just couldn't feel it. And then I went over to Caleb's house and hung out with the pair, along with Ben and my bro Ben, before heading back to my house and playing Starvio into the night. And gosh, we lost in the stupidest manner. I died by clicking on a separate tab and the game freezing, so I couldn't eat. And I was out in the cold and I just died because the game wouldn't let me move my character. It was actually so vexing. And then after that, we all like played Slitherio, and Caleb may have done slightly better than me. Just slightly. The next day, I had work, in which something unusual did happen because we got a white elephant gift exchange, wherein I put some silver quarters in the pot and got out like a $15 gift card. So pretty even trade. We got to eat dinner at this place, and it was okay. However, everyone was really picky about their food. Oh, and 2 girls found hair in their food, and they were so grossed out they didn't eat the rest of it, which apparently is a pretty common phenomenon, but I don't really get it. I've never really thought of hairs in my food as, like, problematic, like, just pull it out and move on. But I guess I'm weird compared to the rest of the world. So yeah, thankfully, that finished up just in time for me to get to my final physics lab. This one didn't require a lab report, so it was really nice. Once I got home, I wasted some time, went to ratio, and ended up being early, so after that, I caught up on some missed sleep. The following day, I had work as per usual and school, just the same old, same old. But then after that, Josh, whose name is not John, had a bachelor party. And honestly, it was a lot better than Jake's in my opinion. So props to Noah. And although it started off with a scavenger hunt, which I was not the biggest fan of, my team did end up finding like every item and won. Also, here's Josh with his spirit animal. Though honestly, the other team did a lot better than we thought they would. They were actually super close. But yeah, the other team got to wear tags of shame, and I was rewarded with a Mr. Potato Head, which I promptly disposed as a gift in the church's nursery upon getting back. I know, I'm so generous. But yeah, after that we had steak, which was the first time I've ever specifically remember eating steak. It was good. Not worth the cost though, but good. Once we got back to the church, we began to work on the castle. And gosh, you have to see this. This is so cool. Basically fell over the next, well, for me, 5 hours, and for some of the guys like 8 or so, maybe 9. We crafted this like candy castle for the competition against the girls. And I've got to say, for a bunch of guys with marginal artistic talent, we did exceptionally well. Here are some pictures of our candy castle. Boop. Picture. Gosh, look how cool that is. The other thing that really caught my attention, though, was about the whole experience, is that we just worked really well as a team. Like, seriously, we were able to come to conclusions for all disagreements and help each other out with our assigned tasks. And it was actually great. Probably the best teamwork experience I've ever had. I don't know what caused it, but I really hope I can figure out how to replicate it, because it's not like, I was really good friends with all these guys. I mean, I am friends with a few of them, but some of them I hardly knew from Adam. But still, we made this awesome castle together and worked nearly seamlessly. I don't know, it was a really cool experience. If teamwork was always like that, then I would love working on a team. It's just usually, in my experience, teamwork is more like the lab group scenario. Anyway, I had physics the final next day, so I left early, aka 2 in the morning, to make sure I could still get up and, get a passable amount of sleep before taking that. The next day, I took said physics final, finished the last of my physics homework, and then expressed my relief by cleaning my room and my dungeon. After that, Mom bought me sushi in celebration of my finishing physics, and then I watched a bit of anime that I've been working through, and the squad minus Karina got together and played Minecraft till like 12, where everyone, super sleep deprived, then crashed. However, it was during this time that we got to see the girls in progress counter build, and we were justifiably slightly nervous. The following day, I went to work once more. I did my chem final, returned my calc physics books, and had a glorious experience of walking out of CEC for the last time. I hope I shall never enter that building again, though it did give me free college, so thanks CEC. Here are some memorial pictures. Boop. Goodbye and good riddance. After that, I got juiced, watched a movie with a fam, and then did some research. The next day, aka Saturday, was the day Noah, deep voice Noah to clarify, had planned for Airsoft around 2 months back, but it happened to be on the day that Josh was getting married. So, while it wasn't preferable to play Airsoft on that day, since we were both booked out so far, Ben and I really couldn't say no to either. And also, since, it's Airsoft, it was in the morning. And the wedding wasn't really till 2, so we decided we'd attend Airsoft for only like 2 hours or so. So yeah, we went there, and it was actually a really good turnout. The guys had a big struggle across the river, had a big struggle getting across the river, but eventually they all made it, and we got underway. It was a good battle. Also, Braden was able to join us, and that was pretty sweet too. Unfortunately, I may have chipped a guy's tooth though. So we're playing this like defend the bunker game mode, right? And I'm defending. And Roy, one of our core airsoft members, runs up to try and defuse one of the mines, which was part of the attacker's win condition. And I just let loose on him. And man, poor Roy. I'm like going like full auto on him when he's like 15 feet away, hiding behind this tiny bush that only blocks like half my BBs. Just calling out hit as he tries to like figure out, find what he thought was his tooth. And I just kept laying down fire because I couldn't hear him. So if you ever read this, Roy, I'm actually super sorry. So yeah, it turned out one of my BBs hit his tooth and it caused a pretty sizable chip. So me and Ben, since we had like 45 minutes anyway, decided to leave early and help Roy get back across the river. So yeah, we headed out. Roy's all right, by the way. He did have to get a root canal though, I think, so seriously no fun. But he's all right. And then we stopped by Vern's, grabbed a cinnamon roll on the way home. After that, we just kind of got ready for the wedding, which was probably my favorite thus far. Katie and Josh actually gave realistic vows instead of being like, I will be perfect forever, which I've ranted about previously and just bugs me immensely. Plus, Josh's vows had actual goals, like I'll provide a stable and sufficient income, instead of being like, I love you, said passionately. I don't know what the point is. I don't know. The point is I actually appreciate the couple's vows for once. But, more importantly, the boys' castle won the competition by a whopping 3 votes. A landslide, I know. However, Ben put the poll up on his big Instagram account, and we lost by like 20% in public polls. So that's a bit unfortunate. But you know what? It doesn't matter because we won where it really counts. Also, Jafe gave a speech that was pretty great. Just thought I should mention that. So yeah, the wedding concluded, and we all went to Chili's, where the plan was to go and watch a movie at Jake's house. But due to the power of Ben and I, we changed that plan to go hang at the Myers basement, which was definitely more fun. Oh, also, I tried to beat Caleb off the line in my in the Jank red car, and I lost. Anyway, we, meaning the squad and Ben, went to the Myers house and hung out. Ben fell asleep, and I wrestled Caleb a few times, and won every time, might I add, before we all went and did a round the world ping pong, and everyone except me got pretty delirious. After that, Benj and I battled some table tennis out while Noah and Joe played games of chess. After that, we woke up Ben. There was a significant amount of motion to just there was a significant motion made to just let him sleep there overnight, but I knew Ben would not appreciate that, so I woke him up against popular opinion. And then we went to our respective homes. The next day, I walked all the way down to Walmart off Mulberry while memorizing history philosophy. I'm getting pretty close to finishing that, by the way. The series I've been working through only goes up to the Reformation philosophers, so I figured I'd just stop with the Italian guys, which means that, the body of knowledge I memorize is no longer growing. And now all I must do is commit like 30-something more philosophers I have like left to memory. So yeah, I did that, and then I called in the mom mobile to pick me up because I didn't want to call it back. Though to be fair, it was actually Dad that ended up picking me up. Once I got home, I responded to emails, watched Man with Grace before heading to Neo's, playing some Smash Bros, and then giving Sydney some presents, cause reasons. Honestly, I don't remember what they are. Thereafter, I had work, and I spent the day working on my car. Turns out I'd left the last oil filter seal in, which is why the new oil filters didn't seal at all. So I ordered another one of those, along with the right hose I needed to be replaced for the power steering leak. I got a bit fixed before having Joe come over and play some chess, where I won all but one game, where I did the big stupid. Though to be fair, all the games I played without my queen, so that counts for something. After that, Joe and I carpooled to Caleb's house, where Brawl Boys occurred, and we ate shrimp and cookies. I assure you, a good combo. The next day I had work, and after that, I did some credit card research, because my credit score is pretty solid at this point in time, like 760-ish, and I wanted to get the best credit card out there. Unfortunately, it turned out my top pick I couldn't get, so I got my second best pick. Alan and I then conversed late into the night. After that, I, being tired, went to work, donated plasma, got a haircut, when I got a free haircut by accident, aka I accidentally didn't pay her, but upon figuring this out, I did go back and remedy the situation, because, I am not going to not pay someone. After that, Mom and Dad did a mini photo shoot at CSU Library, which was pretty death. I don't know why, but I really dislike pictures being taken of me. I have this reflexive compulsion that I just can't explain. However, thankfully, it was far quicker than I expected, and once we got home, Noah and Melissa came over and we talked. Not about anything interesting, mind you, but it was still good to see them. Also, I informed them I might be becoming Catholic, and that was not received well. Anyway, the next day, I worked on researching how to retain what you read better for 4 hours. It was surprisingly difficult to find what I was looking for. I then watched a bit of anime with Grace before heading to the Balance House to attempt to watch an anime. See, in accordance with what was done to me, I've been trying to spread the anime to those around me. Thanks for nothing, Joe. If for no other reason than misery loves company. So I was trying to think of an anime Cindy could watch, right? Well, she doesn't do violence or gore, so I was thinking, what's the cleanest, tamest anime I know? And of course, Bofuri came to mind. Add to that I actually love Bofuri, so I've been watching it for the 5th time. I kid you not. And I figured, we had a winner. So we got snacks, sat down, and started it. And then 4 episodes in, Cindy's like, I'm bored. Which I understand Bofuri doesn't have the most gripping plot. But I don't know how you can be, bored. You get to watch a girl accidentally be extremely overpowered. How can you find that boring? Well, regardless, she did, so the anime watch party was unfortunately prematurely stopped. Oh, Also, I think that Sawyer, a female gone male in terms of identification, and the sister of Sydney, had just moved in with them that day, was part of the factor because it made everything a bit tense. So yeah, they now live with the Bowens for an undisclosed amount of time. And while at first I didn't like them very much, at this point I don't mind them too much. But still, I like it better just Neo and City. So yeah, unfortunately the anime watch party kind of fell apart and we didn't get to watch through Buffering. So as a consolation prize, I went and played Minecraft and Brawlhalla with a pair into the night. The next morning was a glorious one, for it occurred on my very last day of work, which was exciting. I got a bit of a send-off, but not much. I mean, that was kind of expected, though, since I was always just listening to podcasts while I worked, so it's not like I got to really know anyone. And here's a memorial picture of where I worked. Once I got home, I engaged in a 3-hour scholarship search, had a pseudo-graduation party with the Wades, wherein Ben hid wasabi in an Oreo, then he and Sam took turns eating Oreos until one of them found it. Though Sam actually ended up getting it and played off as if he wasn't dying inside as he ate it, so Ben would have to eat more Oreos. So yeah, it was actually quite funny to watch, but not participate in. And then Ben showed us The French Dispatch, a newish movie that he animated an ad for, and it was terrible. Actually the worst, both in sketch content and style. It was so weird. Did not like it at all. Following upon the rising of the sun, I got juiced. I did a bit more research on how to retain what you read better and had a long Discord debate with this PhD Thomas Matt brought in, which I'm actually super thankful he did because he's been super helpful thus far. So yeah, I talked with him for ages before going over to John and Braden's house for Sydney and John's graduation party, in which very much alcohol was consumed. It was definitely an interesting experience. Jeremy and John were both thoroughly drunk, and Braden was pretty up there, though you can't tell with him like you can with John and Jeremy. Man, Jeremy was hilarious. He just kept saying things like, "Braden, you're a great guy, but those earrings look so stupid." And it was pretty funny to watch. The worst part was when he started saying all the things he liked about his girlfriend, Sierra, who came along as a designated driver and was most definitely not drunk. That was, how to say, an experience. One I will not recount here for all of our well-being. But they're still dating afterwards, so Sienna must be a pretty great person. Anyway, it was a pretty interesting place to be, that's for sure. I DJ'd for the night, and I managed to keep the song lyrics Christian or neutral while laying down some sick beats, so I'm pretty proud of myself. However, I ended up repeating the same songs like 3 times because after a while, at the first round of drinks, I assure you no one was able to notice. Okay, to be fair, there were a few that stayed sober, so me, and me, maybe Neo, I don't know, maybe they noticed. Anyway, it was a good time. Many, many swear words were said, and I was even more convinced I never want to be drunk, but honestly, I didn't feel uncomfortable. I feel like I know these guys pretty well at this time, so I kind of all took it in stride and just had a good time. And somehow, I actually do not know how, John and Jeremy crushed in Smash Bros. Despite being totally plastered. It makes no sense to me. So yeah, I stayed late to make sure no one did anything stupid, and then I went home and went to sleep. Here's a picture of said event. The next day, I did more reading, retention research. I talked with the PhD Thomist. His name is Jason, for quite some time. Went to Sydney's birthday party, which was decently awkward since her parents were there, and I ended up ducking out early because Mom had previously scheduled a dinner with Luke and Rosemary. So I got home, kind of participated, but the conversation was pretty boring for the most part, so I didn't say much. But hey, I was there. After that, I finished and went back to Neo and Sydney's place, and probably had the best conversation I've had yet with John. It was a really good talk, so I'm definitely glad I went back. The day after that, I worked on credit card stuff, fixed most of my car, got food with Grace, and then watched an anime as we ate. After that, typical Monday night things occurred, though this session I managed to beat Caleb to the end of Minecraft, so I'm better. The next day I had to recruit Ben to help me get my serpentine belt on. It was actually so hard, but we managed it, and I could have done it without him. And with that, my car is now up and running, and it continues to do so. Plus the dash lights have now started working, so I don't know what's up with that. Once I got home, I worked on some bank stuff, then joined in the pair for the worst swimming ever. I mean, swimming just kind of sucks as an activity in general, but where we went was actually so bad. The only pool open was a really deep diving board one, and there wasn't anything to do. Plus, there were 20 high school kids just watching for us, waiting for the swim meet to start. So yeah, it was just all around bad. However, the best time was just staying for an abnormally long time in the showers. That was great. After I took Ben home, and because he came with us, and then people came over to my house, and we didn't do much of anything. Mom and Dad just made a ton of loaded nachos, and we ate those in shifts while we watched various YouTube videos. After that, we all migrated to Joe's house, that way Mom and Dad wouldn't have to bear the full burden of feeding us. And then we ate some things there. And I lost to Benjamin Chess a few times. He's actually so good, and it bugs me. Once I got home, Mom and Grace were watching Titanic, so I saw some of that, but I didn't finish it. Alan came over, and we played this really cool board game. Here's a picture of it. Boop. It's cooperative, so that was novel. And it was basically reverse Manifest Destiny. We got to, like, choose the spirit of the land, and our goal was to ward off settlers and keep them from inhabiting and destroying the land. I got to be a lightning phoenix. So yeah, definitely enjoyed it. Finally, after that, we migrated to the dungeon and talked a bit about crypto until Alan headed out. The following day, I worked on writing my retention paper, went to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, which reminded me a lot of wrestling, and I also surprisingly enjoy it. However, it's like $200 a month, so the price is really dissuading. I might get into it, but we'll see. After that, I went to Southgate and played Spikeball, wherein me and Benj, the ultimate Spikeball team, destroyed all of our opponents in glorious fashion. Then after that, Benj and I played ping pong into the night, and we managed to get 3 balls going back and forth, which is surprisingly harder than you might think. See, Caleb apparently told Ben it couldn't be done, so me and Benj were like, bet. And then we did. We got it after like an hour of trying. It was great. So yeah, after that, my body was very physically exhausted, and so we just played Minecraft and talked with Joe to rattle the night. The day thereafter, I finished reading my reading retention paper, basically a short paper about how to retain stuff better. So if any of you care to read it, you should follow this link of life. After that, I got juiced because money. I then debated on Discord with this PhD Thomas guy, who's definitely grateful he's around because it's really rare someone's really take up like the sort of time for a random college student like he has. Anyway, after that, I ate dinner, and the Holdorfs and Morgan came over for said dinner. However, the conversation was dreadfully boring, and I saw people were debating Thomas things without me, so I left dinner early jumping on that. After that, people came over for a downtown Fort Collins Look at the Lights walk, which Karina, of all people, organized. She has, like, no life, so she's been more proactive as late. So yeah, we, meaning Joe, Karina, Noah, as well as Naomi and Cameron, all just walked around. Joe and I split a cookie, talked a bit, and mostly did boring things. It was meh, but not all bad. Here's a picture of Naomi and Karina taking a picture. And here's a picture of Noah taking a picture of me, taking a picture of Naomi and Karina taking a picture. Boop. After that, we all hopped in Joe's car and drove up to my designated spot to stargaze. That, unlike the night walk, was pretty great. We all got to know Karina a bit better and had some good conversations and got, chilled through our blankets as we stared at a bunch of clouds for the whole night. Yeah, unfortunately, stargazing itself actually sucked. But yeah, definitely, to use a phrase of Jeremy's, tasty, well worth it. The next day I woke up and got to work on recording the last live email. As I said last time, Jake is going to record it, but he's been real busy, so I ended up doing it. I then did more Discord debating with Jason, henceforth named the Thomas Legend. After that, I played Minecraft and talked with Liam. Oh, and I must say, my castle's coming along very nicely. I must display it to you. Boop. Also, I've been working on the last biggest tower, and I just noticed it's ridiculously ugly, so I have to change that later. But the rest of it looks pretty darn cool, so, And remember, this is all in survival. Anyway, after working on that, I then, at Mom's request, mind you, attended midnight mass at the Catholic church that she used to go to. Apparently it was like 2 hours long, but honestly went by really fast for me. I can't say, what can I say? I'm just that pious. The next eve was a special one, namely of the Christmas variety. We did presents before we spent Christmas up at the Wades, so we figured we should do presents at home. I got a fancy anime t-shirt, which I will wear very proudly, because look how cool that looks. It's Saber. Plus, it's from my favorite anime. Oh, there you go. An image of Saber, if you're curious. And I know this is, an all-time low for Alex, for some of your perspectives, but I didn't ask for this t-shirt, and thus, at least according to Braden's standards, I doth narrowly avoid be christened weeb. Because I've been told, as long as I don't get an anime body pillow, I should be good. So fear not. That is not a line I shall ever cross. Oh, that's ironic. But yeah, I actually love this shirt. Anyway, in addition to that, I got a Thomas shirt, but it was so-so, as well as some other fancy stuff. After we opened presents, we began our trek up to the Wades, and I drove my own car, because I needed to, come down early, due to the nature of the time of the movie I'd been scheduled with Michael prior. So yeah, I drove up there and was super thankful my car worked well. Once I got there, we engaged in a game of Catan. I almost won, but lost to Grace of all people in the end. Here's a picture of that. Boop. I then watched Princess Bride before going to bed, but most certainly not sleep. We, mostly Ben, David, and I, Ben, Sam, and David, but I did join in towards the end, engaged in a 2-hour-long pillow fight, if it can be called that. And boxes were thrown, straight-out wrestling happened, and the event definitely defies simple classification. Also, I just realized I'm using XDs again. Well, sorry, I guess it can't be helped. Jake, I don't care how you read them. I'm keeping them. Anyway, so yeah, not much sleeping was done, and here's a picture that Ben took in the midst of it all. So yeah, I didn't get great sleep that night. The next day, we engaged in some airsoft, of which Mom got pictures of us. Here's a picture of us prepping. And yeah, that was actually really fun. We did a few rounds where me, Ben, and Sam all just had pistols, and David had a sniper, where the goal was to storm the sniper's nest, and it was pretty great. And then, once our batteries had all charged up, we all got our full autos and went at it. We ended up stopping due to a mix of snow, because you actually just couldn't see your BBs, and Sam's gun having problems. But honestly, it was a great game. After that, we went inside and warmed up, and Sam and I played a few games of checkers, of which he won one and I won the rest. And apparently Mom got a picture of that, though I totally didn't notice that. I'll be honest, I was kind of focused. We then went and played a game of Catan, which I lost by literally forgetting what cards I had in my hand, which was actually stupid because I could have won otherwise. And then David drove me down to the gate, and I drove home. And it was definitely a bit sketch, pretty slick, and I went slow. And there was a crash that happened just before me, so I stopped to see if they were all right and if they needed help, but otherwise it was uneventful. Upon getting home, I then talked with the legendary Thomist, and then went to go see the new Spider-Man with Michael. Personally, I thought it was meh at best, but, maybe that's just because I never really liked the old Spider-Mans that much. Regardless, I did get home. I talked with the Legendary Thomas some more, and then I went to sleep. The following day, I cleaned up some stuff, got juiced, played Minecraft, attended a trip meeting, and then played some video games with the squad. The day after that, I drove to Estes at like 9 in the morning, which is pretty early for me, because what I thought I had was a tumor, though apparently it was just an infected cyst, and it was growing on my back, and was becoming quite uncomfortable. So he prescribed me some antibiotics, and now things are, great. So thankfully, that's all there was to that. I then talked with Legendary Thomas some more before going to hang out with Noah, though it turned out to be a hangout with the squad sort of deal, and Karina drove her mom's truck through the canyons, and we took in an Owl City guessing competition, which I'm not actually sure I won. After that, we noticed the stars were absolutely fantastic, so Caleb and I rode in the back of the truck for a ways looking at them. However, I was in shorts, and actually so cold. It was like 15 degrees without wind chill, so we ended up cutting that short. So yeah, we got back to my house, dropped off Noah, because he was actually like he has a life and responsibilities and stuff, and then the rest of us grabbed a ton of blankets and headed back toward the mountains, and Joe and I rode in the back of the truck on the way there. And we definitely should have taken more time to arrange our blankets because we were so darn cold, but it was a good time. Once we drove up the canyon waves, we all pseudo-laid in the truck. It was more like we slouched in the truck, and we were all super squished. So we ended up having Karina went under our the arches of our legs, while the three guys made like a tent for her, and it worked decently. However, mine, but really all of our toes got really cold, so Karina became a human foot warrior. She has done a great service to our country and its people. Here's a picture of the mountains Caleb took during that time. After we decided we had had enough of that somewhat odd arrangement, Caleb and I settled in the back and arranged our blankets meticulously. After we deemed ourselves prepared, Karina set off, and honestly, the first part was great. However, now remember, the temperature during this escapade is precisely cold. And no, the back of a truck does not protect you from the wind chill in the way you might think. So while we were only moderately cold for the normal driving, which, was twice as long, as somehow Karina went the exact wrong direction toward home, which I'm told was by accident. Once we hit the highway, though, that very quickly changed. Once we hit the highway, the wind just sliced through our blankets, especially around our toes. So naturally, Caleb and I let the driver and her accomplice know that the highway was very cold. But Joe, being the incarnation of the devil, somehow managed to convince Karina, who I thought would have the fortitude to resist his cunning words, to go past my house, all the way to the literal interstate. And then not only did they go all the way the winds on the interstate, but then they went back! And let me tell you, it was so cold. I do not care to mention the things Caleb and I did to stay warm, but it was so cold. Caleb later calculated, and with wind chill, it was around negative 25 degrees. Actually, so cold. So yeah, that was definitely an experience. After Caleb happened to catch the moment in which Karina decided to go back on the interstate, and it was pretty great. Here's a picture of our panic state. I don't know, maybe Joe can edit that sound in at some point. The next day, both me and Caleb got sick, so I'd like to blame that on the torture we experienced, but I'm not actually sure it was. Regardless, I was down for the count, so I just listened to a lot of podcasts and played a lot of Minecraft and then watched some anime. The following day, I was less sick and therefore more functional, and I spent the entire time working on taking all my archives, the cards, letters received, etc., that kept throughout my life, and putting them into digital form, so I did that for most of the day. The next day, I spent 6 hours doing more of that, and at the very end, I figured out I'd saved all the images in this tiny, unreadable PNG size. So I saved them all over again. It was actually such a pain. After that, I watched Violet Evergarden with Mama Grace, which they both really liked because it's like the most well-done anime in existence. The next morning, I finished re-downloading all my archives into readable image sizes, and then, since I was basically feeling well again, participated in a one-shot Sydney put together called The Puzzle Mansion. And she did it well, and it was a cool idea. And it basically made all of our character stats useless. So I was a little vexed by that because the character I spent time creating couldn't use any of his skills. I then participated in a Neo Bible study before rounding out the night with some Halo and just hanging. Upon the morrow, I spoke with the legendary Thomist. I then took Grace and a classmate of hers to the mall to skate upon ice. Once I got home, I played a little Minecraft before working on this live and email for quite a few hours. I then started I did standard Monday night things, though this time with a welcome edition of shrimp and kielbasa purchased by the greatest of all stores, Walmart. After that, Caleb and vicariously Joe, since he was my ride, stayed late, and me and Caleb started the Halo 2 campaign. Turns out the legendary difficulty on Halo 2 is much harder than Halo 1. You need to unload like 2 complete mags of your standard fast shooting gun just to kill a single elite, and you die super easily. Plus, if just one of you dies, it'll start over. So after playing like an hour or so of that, we caved and switched it to the difficulty to heroic. Anyway, it was a good time. I went home and proceeded to get bad sleep due to a leak in our roof that's right over my bed, and it soaked all my sheets and blankets. I then spent an inordinate amount of time getting said blanket washed because it's a weighted blanket. It weighs like 20 pounds, so our washer had no chance of actually succeeding in washing it. So yeah, finally got that done. Read some of Philosophical Systems, which is a book the legendary Thomas had me buy. I then drove to Longmont and hung out with Liam and Alan for a while, which was a good time, until I got a call from Ben telling me that him, Caleb, and Joe decided to start an 8-hour show at 2 in the morning. So yeah, we watched that until like 4 or something, and everyone went to their respective houses for bed. That was arcane, by the way. And then showed back up at mine, and we woke up at around like 12:30, and then we watched it until like 6:30. So yeah. I then hung out with Michael for a bit, and we had a pretty good talk. Thereafter, Ben, Caleb, and I all went drifting in Caleb's car, which was meh. He can't turn off his traction control, so that's big sad for drifting. However, he could do this fancy swing around thing, so that was cool. After that, I was like, okay, we need to go in my car. So we stopped back at home, dropped off Ben, and then took my car, and it was so much better because I can turn off my traction control. And I have quite a bit more horsepower, and thus I was able to do some more sustained drifts. Caleb got some footage, which I'll attach as a tiny snippet. Finally, after we did that for that bit, I caught up with Jordan until like 2 in the morning. So yeah, overall, pretty full day. The day after that, I read more philosophical systems before heading over to Molly's house for a worship night she was putting on. The roads were a bit sketchy, but I made it, and it was a decent time. There was quite a bit of worship, especially with the addition of the Chi Alpha people that Cable brought, and it was definitely more charismatic in nature. Still, wasn't bad. We did a bit of apples to apples, talked some, and yeah, ended that night pretty early. I got to see everyone, and even if the interactions were not too significant, that was good. Here's a picture. Once I got home, I watched some anime with Ben until like 2 in the morning, and then I hit the sack. After that, I read some more of the philosophical system books, watched some anime with Ben and Mom, and then John and I went stargazing and hung out. And it was actually super warm out, despite, everything being frozen. And John and I had a really good conversation, so that was worth it. The next day, I read some more of the book, got distracted, and I finished it. To be honest, he did a really good job of showcasing why everyone else was wrong, but a really poor job of showing why he himself was right. So we'll see if the legendary Thomas can defend this guy's claims. After that, Caleb and I hung out, and he taught me how to drive a stick shift, and that went pretty well until I got stuck in an intersection for like a solid minute. So apparently what happened is I'm cruising down, the stoplight, right? And I'm like, when I engage the clutch, it doesn't matter what gear I'm in, so I'm just going to engage the clutch and shift to first now, and then stop at the light. However, what I didn't realize, despite Caleb having told me as much, is you can't shift down to first if you're going too fast. So what I actually did is shift to third. Hence, when the light turned green and I was supposed to start, I kept trying to start in third gear, and I just stalled the car over and over and over again for like a solid minute until Caleb figured out what was going on and put it in first. And that whole experience hardcore sucked. But regardless, other than that, I can now drive a stick shift, and no doubt Caleb is slightly traumatized. So yeah, did that, and then Caleb and I played a bit of brawl, which was good. After that, I met with Noah and we talked philosophy with him for a few hours, and that was a good conversation. I think Noah's the best to talk about philosophy about other than Alan, because he does his own research and he actually understands the difficulty of philosophy better than most. Thus, he hears you out and is able to, put forward educated points. Definitely enjoyable to talk to. The next day, I woke up and headed over to the Myers to originally build a snow fort with just bench, but it turns out all the older kids, it became all the older kids sort of deal. And honestly, it was a lot better that way. I had the idea of instead of making our own snow pile, because that's what always takes forever, we just go to a parking lot and use the pile of snow that was already there. And that was genius. We made such a cool fort with only a tiny amount of time. Like, seriously, check this out. Boop. Look at that. Pictures. Also, the images are courtesy of Mostly Korea, who I feel I'm getting to know quite a bit better, by the way, and we're becoming pretty good friends. And yeah, it was pretty darn cool fort. As the sun went down, we decided we'd have this little guy come over. Have all the little guys come over, and they loved it. Honestly, a really cool way to spend the day. Once I got back to Myers' house, we had hot chocolate and played a game of Catan. I almost won, but the stupid robber literally stopped me from winning. Actually, so vexing. After that, I drove home and didn't do much as far as productive things go upon arriving there. The day after, everyone came over to my house to work on life stories, though instead of being productive like that, I spent 4 hours finding anime clips so Joe could put them together into an epic anime music video. After doing such with the squad, minus Caleb, we headed over to Caleb's house where we played Brawl and Minecraft, and Karina made spaghetti, and it was good. Yesterday, I worked on this live email for a few hours before heading over to Joe's to work on the AMV, anime music video with him. It turned out it took a lot longer than I thought it would, even though Joe is pretty fast, but I had to convert all the files of the clips I saved, which was a super huge pain. And then I just cut them and put them together, and it took forever. Of course, Joe did the actual work, but since I knew what clips, were which, I had him grab that one. I'd be like, grab that one and put it there and so forth. Anyway, we proceeded by me giving clip suggestion, Joe plugging it in and seeing how it worked, and then the process was just repeated on repeat. We took a break midway, and I went home, ate dinner, watched some Ashes and Grimgar with my family, which is such a change of pace from the epic anime video, and then went back to Joe's and worked on it until about 10:30. All told, we spent 11 to 12 hours working on that thing, so definitely a time investment. However, I think I can say objectively this is one of, if not the best anime music video out there. Actually so cool. I put the link in so you can watch it, because it's actually epic. See, just looking it up, I had to look it up because I wanted to watch it again. It's just that good. So yeah, today I sat down, talked with the Thomas Legend for a bit, worked on this for the rest of the time, and there you go. The end. Oh, and saying this email has kind of set a precedent for video clips. I'm just going to show you some of my Beat Saber, because it's good, just saying. This is the sort of level I'm trying to make it through. Anyway, hope you're impressed. Talk to you later.